Hello, we will now begin the U.S. Copyright Office's latest public modernization webinar. During today's program, attendees may submit questions using the Q&A panel accessed by clicking the Q&A icon at the bottom of the Zoom screen. We will answer questions after the presentation is complete. However, we may not answer all of the submitted questions during today's webinar. Furthermore, this session is being recorded. If you choose to participate, any of your questions will be included in the recording as part of the record. And with that, now I would like to welcome Registrar of Copyrights and Director of the U.S. Copyright Office, Shira Perlmutter. Shira?
Thank you, Steve, and good afternoon. Welcome to everyone joining us for today's webinar on the Copyright Office Modernization Initiative. I'm happy to report that in spite of all of the challenges of the past year, the office continues to make good progress on modernizing our systems for the benefit of both the public and our staff. Today's webinar will focus on one specific element of modernization, and that is digitizing our historical public records dating all the way back to 1870, when the Copyright Office was established as part of the Library of Congress. The office holds the most complete and accurate collection of records of copyright ownership in the world, and maintaining these records is one of our important functions. For those of you who have never had the chance to visit us in Washington and see our card catalog with its millions of index cards, or the catalog of copyright records, or the thousands of copyright record books, they're really an impressive sight. Through Copyright Office modernization, we want to ensure that these records are preserved for future research and available for access by anyone, anywhere in the world. Digitizing the records to accomplish these goals is a complex task. Not only is this a matter of sheer volume, but as copyright law has evolved over the years, so too has the information contained in the records. And as a result, creating a database that's usable and helpful for members of the public is not as simple as just photocopying documents and storing them on a computer. So to provide more detail on our historical public records program and what we're planning for the future, let me turn this over to the Deputy Director of the Office of Copyright Records, Maren Reed.
Thank you and good morning. So again, yes, my name is Maren Reed and I am the Deputy Director of the Office of Copyright Records, and welcome to our webinar. Speaking with me today will be Kristen A. Phelps, who is a digitization manager in the office, and Robin Correas, a subject matter expert and program analyst in the Office of Copyright Records. We also have several other subject matter experts on our panel who may be available to answer questions at the end of the presentation. So our agenda for today, we're going to be talking about the challenge that we're trying to address with the Historical Public Records program. We'll discuss our goals, our strategy, and the projects and activities that are part of the overall program, specifically the record book digitization project and the card catalog metadata perfection project. So what is the challenge that we are addressing? So as you've heard, we have copyright records ranging from 1870 to 1977 in a variety of different formats. And they're currently sort of hard to access and search, and they are at risk for physical deterioration. This includes 41.5 million catalog cards, over 26,000 record books, 674 volumes of the catalog of copyright entries, and 23,000 reels of microfilm. Right now, many of these records are only accessible on site at the Copyright Office. And when you want to do any research, you often have to look at several different types of records or artifacts in multiple formats in order to put together a complete history of the copyright. So our goal is to provide online access to these records, those that are not currently available online, and to make them searchable so that you can find the information that you need. Also, through digitization, we're able to preserve these records for the future. And our strategy is to expand access to these records in increments. So we have already provided access to the card catalog cards through our virtual card catalog in increments. And we're working now to provide access to our record books, and we'll release those in increments. We're prioritizing records that are still under copyright and making those available online first. And through digitization, we are creating another copy of these historical records to ensure their integrity. We're aligning our efforts with the development of the copyright public record system. And we're constantly looking for new tools and technologies to improve our processes as we're working through these projects. We've been executing pilots and proof of concepts like the virtual card catalog to reduce risks and address unknowns. And we're also very interested in your feedback. There's a survey if you use the virtual card catalog that you can provide us feedback on. And you can also contact us via email, and we look forward to any feedback on functionality. We're seeking out partnerships and non-traditional resources to complete this effort. And importantly, we want to make sure that these collections are easy to use. The content is high quality and the data is accurate. So our completed activities thus far, we have digitized the card catalog cards and created the virtual card catalog proof of concept website. And now we are working on the digitization of the record books collection. And we're going to be putting together a preview of that collection on the Library of Congress website. We are also improving the searchability of the card catalog cards by perfecting certain metadata fields. And we're looking at the historical records and how the information has changed over time so that we can map it to our new copyright public record system. We are going to, in the future, be looking at what metadata needs to be captured from the record books and extracting that information to make those searchable. We're going to be digitizing microfilm and extracting the metadata from the microfilm to make those searchable, and putting this all together to make it accessible through the copyright public record system. So now I'd like to turn it over to Kristen A. Phelps to give a more thorough overview of the record books digitization project.
Thank you, Maren. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be giving you a snapshot of the historical record books digitization project, just by way of an overview. This is a multi-year project to create a searchable digital images of pre-1978 copyright records. The total collection size is 26,278 volumes, which date from 1870 to 1977 and contain an estimated 26,278,000 pages. Books include registrations, renewals, assignments, notices of use of musical compositions, and other related records, including patent records and patent examiner indices from 1870 to 1940. Many of the works are still under copyright protection. Our first phase is focusing on volume level access, and our second and future phase will provide record level access via ECS copyright public record system. Currently, this project is one of the largest library digitization efforts. Since March 2021, our contractor has digitized to federal agencies' Digital Guidelines Initiative, or FADGI 3-star level, images for over 500 books, and we're counting. We will be finalizing a preview of the digitized version of the record books to be available on loc.gov. Just to give you kind of a visual overview of what our workflow is, after the books are cataloged, they're passed along to our vendor, who is digitizing the books, both using traditional overhead imaging technology and, in another library first, a robotic scanner. All the volumes are assessed for suitability to determine which piece of equipment they'll be used on. Once the books are imaged and processed, they're passed along to our in-house quality assurance, or QA team. The QA team checks the quality of the images and the metadata. The process started with a 100% review, so looking at every single image. And as we built confidence in the vendor, we've tapered down to 50% of the sample, 25%, and now we're down to 10%. We also verify the pagination. Occasionally, some of these books do have pages that are bound out of order, and we'd like to catch that. Following the QA process, the images are ingested into storage and metadata is extracted and harvested and sent on to the web team, which then prepares it to go online. And this is what the working version of our test site looks like. This is not the final version, and it's not yet available to the public. However, we will have at the beginning volume level information, the metadata for just the volumes. In the future, of course, we'll be looking at the record level metadata. But the benefits of having this collection online is that this collection will no longer require individuals that wish to use it to either come to Washington, D.C. to see it in the reading room or to pay someone to do research for them. They will be able to do their own research, and this should hopefully make the process much easier. I would now like to turn over the presentation to Robin Correas, who is a subject matter expert for the Copyright Record Office.
Thank you, Kristen. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the card catalog data perfection project. The goal is to create enhanced searchable metadata so that users can locate and access card catalog images. We are building off of the existing virtual card catalog proof of concept, and future plans are to integrate and make these images available through the copyright public record system. Excuse me. The status of our project: we are currently perfecting metadata fields. We are planning to enable efficient access to records based on prioritizing metadata fields that are most used in searches and integrate with the copyright public record system. Some of you may not be familiar with the virtual card catalog, or VCC as we call it. This virtual card catalog proof of concept was released in 2019. It represents card images displayed displayed in JPEG images from the copyright card catalog, and contains images of cards from 1870 through 1977 and are available online and presented in a similar filing order as found in the physical card catalog. The virtual card catalog, some of the images contain OCR data, but it's raw OCR data and presents limited browse capabilities, which is why we are starting this data perfection project. The first phase of the project is focusing on metadata fields for the application cards. And this is a list of metadata fields that we are perfecting in the project. And the importance of perfecting that metadata is to make the cards searchable and enhance searching capabilities. This is an image of an application card and part of the associated OCR text from the virtual card catalog. And if you can see the OCR data as it was captured, the raw OCR data lists the author, which is Margaret Mortensen Landon, as MARGAR-TA. This probably would not lead to a successful search for this card using that raw OCR data. And then on the next slide, you will see an example of the perfected XML data for that same author field. As you can see, it's Margaret Mortensen Landon, which would lead to a much more efficient search. The next image is the affidavit side of that same card. And you can see from the highlighted data for the raw OCR data, the date it was first published is captured as 0+, June, 194. And the actual date is June 29th, 1944. And on the next slide, you can see the data as perfected shows the correct first published date. And then on the next slide, this is an example of a handwritten application. Not all of the application cards in the card catalog are neatly typed. And handwritten cards present a challenge of their own in reading the handwriting and capturing the OCR text. And you can see the title of the book in this case was captured as AI. And in the next slide, it shows the perfected XML data for the title of the work, Mother Delomi. And the next slide is an example of the affidavit side of that same handwritten, excuse me, card, where for the title of the book, it looks like it was not captured at all. And the next slide shows the perfected XML where the title of the book is captured correctly. So what are our future projects? Kristen gave you an overview of the record book collection. We want to launch a preview of that collection on loc.gov. We are going to extract metadata from the record books. We plan to digitize the microfilm and extract metadata from the microfilm and then integrate with the copyright public records system. And now I will turn it back to Steve.
Thank you very much, everyone. Before we start the Q&A portion of the program, we'd like to conduct a short poll for our audience members. If you could just tell us what future webinar topics are you interested in, please click all that apply to you. And after you answer that, we will head to the Q&A portion and we will answer which questions we can. So, and with that, let's start the Q&A. So again, we will now begin the Q&A portion of the program. Again, you can submit questions using the Q&A panel at the bottom of your Zoom screen, if you can see that Q&A icon. And so we will start with the first question. I believe this is for Kristen. Is there any direct connection with the Internet Archives, specifically between the Copyright Office and the vendor for digitization?
Hi, yeah. So I'm assuming that the individual that asked this is referring to the Internet Archive, which is a nonprofit digital library initiative, which a number of institutions throughout the US and internationally take part in. And we are actually using a private contractor, so this is not part of the Internet Archive's larger work.
Great. And this may be for you as well. Will there be any effort to rescan the early assignment books and microfilm reels? Many of those PDF scans are incomplete and not separated out by individual documents. These are merely grouped as V.P001 and often stop mid-reel at page 300.
We're currently beginning the process of doing an assessment of the microfilm reels and making certain that they are stable enough to digitize. We're also making sure that there won't be any duplication of what we're digitizing with the record books themselves. So this is one of our forthcoming projects.
Great. Another question, can the public still access these records in person while they're being digitized? So this is for anyone on the team.
Hi, this is Maren. I can take that question. Yes, so the public can still make appointments to visit, and you can do that through Sign Up Genius on copyright.gov. The reading room does remain closed due to remodeling, but we can host you in another space in the Public Information Office to review materials. And we're in the process of setting up a temporary reading room for the public.
And we have a question about timing. When will the digitized record books be available on loc.gov?
This is Maren again. So we don't have an exact launch date yet, but we will announce when that will happen, and then we'll do it in increments as the books are digitized and prepared for public access. So stay tuned.
Thank you very much. I do have a question about the digitization. What does 3-star level mean? How many levels are there?
This is a good question. This is something that you will see come up more and more frequently when you hear about digitization projects. FADGI currently has 4 levels, and each one indicates the level of perfection that each one is executed towards. Level 3, which this project, the historic record books, is generally considered for a project of this size the most attainable and best quality images that you can have for access. A 4-star project would be a smaller project, maybe with 500 images total, and something that might have illuminated pages or something that you really want to make sure that you have perfect. Most institutions aim to digitize towards 3-star. Some nonprofits and some groups that don't have any infrastructure for this look at being either at 1 or 2-star.
Great, thank you. We do have questions about the uses of the digitalized public records. Like how are some people using these records?
Oh yeah, so people use these records to search for the current copyright holder, for legal or historical research, to see if work is under copyright, or to put together a list of registered works by a particular author.
Excellent. And we did get a question about whether this webinar is being recorded. I can answer that. Yes, it is being recorded right now. We are putting it up on our modernization website, which the link you can see on the screen, so you can access all our webinars that way as soon as the recording is prepared and ready. We also post the webinars onto our YouTube channel. So you can search for Copyright Office on YouTube and you will find us there as well. And next question, why are we starting digitizing the record from 1870 and not prior to 1870?
So the Copyright Office records go back to 1870, and prior to that, they're part of the library's collection, and they have done some work to create a digital collection of their materials that's available on the library's website.
Thank you very much. And here's a question. Which portions of the work we're doing currently on records can be done remotely?
I think this is an important question because this is something that we've all dealt with recently, having to work from home, and digitization and some of the follow-up activities are very much hands-on. However, digital access during the pandemic has been so critical for research to continue. And so most groups that are engaging in digitization, at least, have found ways to keep their folks working. A lot of times it's doing quality assurance work or post-processing. For our particular project, we would be able to do the QA process from home, provided that we had images to work on. We would also be able to do the ingest of images and get the information over to the web team so that they could display it on the public site. And I'm not sure if Robin would maybe want to add something else from the BCC, what they've been able to do from home.
Yes, we are currently doing a review of the drawers, of images in each of the drawers in the VCC to identify, first of all, if there are any missing images, specifically for the application cards, And we want to identify those so we can, as a later project, possibly include those missing images. And we're also just doing kind of a quality review of images that are in the virtual card catalog to identify maybe future projects to clean up some of the data in those images.
Thank you very much. And with that, I will conclude today's webinar. For all you who have attended, when you sign out of the session, we do encourage you to take part in a brief survey regarding your experience. We use this to improve our webinar program, so your feedback is greatly appreciated. So thank you all for joining us today for today's webinar, and we hope to see you at future modernization webinars. Thank you all very much. Have a good day.